Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Dais, a podcast about the stories taking place in and around El Paso County, Colorado. I'm your host, Scott Anderson, and today I am joined once again by Luke Hauser, a Community Development Analyst in El Paso County's Economic Development Department. And joining us for the first time today is Jason McCullough of Brothers Redevelopment, a Denver-based nonprofit organization that provides housing and a variety of housing-related services for the region's low-income, elderly, and disabled residents. How are the two of you doing today?
Great.
Doing excellent. Thank you for your time, Scott.
Great. Yeah, no, thank you for taking the time to be here. I'm really excited about our conversation. I think it's going to be really valuable for a number of people in the region, so I'm excited to get to that. But before we get started, I want to quickly add that if listeners are interested in more stories about people doing good in and around El Paso County, or hearing from county leadership about local government priorities and how they operate, you can find additional episodes of this podcast on your podcast platform of choice. But to get started today, it'd be great, Luke, if you could let us know. Our main topic of the day is the Community Development Block Grant. If you could let us know what that is and how it applies to people in the area, that would be great.
Absolutely. So a little bit of backstory. The Community Development Block Grant specific to El Paso County earned its entitlement status in 2009. And what that meant was that we surpassed a population of 200,000, which allowed us to give these entitlement funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to low to moderate income individuals within El Paso County. And how the Community Development Block Grant works is that we're able to give these funds to nonprofits, municipalities, CBDOs, which stand for Community-Based Development Organizations, faith-based organizations, and institutions of higher learning that assist low to moderate income individuals within the county, but outside the city limits. Colorado Springs having its own entitlement of CDBG, we cannot mix the two funds for the clientele we serve, but we are able to help those low to moderate income residents that reside outside the city limits, as long as they fit those certain caveats that I mentioned.
So with this block grant, how are people able to access that? And, what is that? What are there like amount limits to that? What does that look like for the people who are wanting to be able to access those funds?
No, and that's a great question. We actually have 5 different funding categories for the grant itself. The first one being public service, which is our most competitive component of the grant. Public service projects are typically going to be projects that involve a classroom setting. Maybe it's a project that could specifically help low to moderate income clientele. There's also public facilities and infrastructure, which are construction-based projects that can assist low to moderate income individuals. We also do economic development activities, which help promote low to moderate income jobs within the community, as well as housing projects, which we'll talk about a little bit more in detail today with our guest from Brothers Redevelopment. But typically our prerogative at the county for developing and promoting housing is typically we'll work with nonprofit organizations such as Brothers Redevelopment to really help low to moderate income individuals in their homes, to help promote ease of living and living in place prerogative of the county. But at the same time, it's really the mission of the county to, again, support low to moderate income individuals that are from all different types of all sorts of different demographic backgrounds. Sorry, I messed that up, Scott.
No, it's all right. So is this funding that is available for people, is that ongoing funding? Is it for a certain amount of time? What does that look like for them?
Yeah, thank you. We're actually in the beginnings of our application cycle, which began on January 2nd. And the application cycle runs annually from the first week in January to the first week in February. Each CDBG entitlement is a little bit different, but our CDBG begins this process because it's usually about a 9-month turnaround before you're able to receive funds after you submit an application. So typically we have to get started pretty early to get certain levels of approvals from specifically the Board of County Commissioners. Approves all of our funding recommendations that we make to them. And once we get their approval, we have to go through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So we start early, and we hope to, get as many good applicants as we can to begin that review process, which typically ends in October of the following year, or of the same year, excuse me.
Okay, and then are those funds available to them immediately, or is it at the beginning of that next year that they receive?
So it's a 12-month grant cycle. We typically, we begin the process in early January, and then we will do all the reviews until what is May and June of the same year. And then we will actually issue what is known as a notice to proceed letter for our sub-recipients of the grant, typically in October. And then they have 12 months to complete the grant cycle. During those 12 months, you can accrue costs that are related to the programming that you're offering. If it's a construction-based project, we can typically cover most of the construction that is specific to the project type, as long as the materials you're using don't outlive the life of the grant. Some examples of that I have are, we can't pay for a vehicle, but we can pay for the gas that goes into the vehicle. Okay. But at the same time, there are certain levels of eligibility, especially when it comes to the types of funds or the types of materials we can use in a project. But for more context, I just recommend people contact me, reach out, and we can go over what those eligible expenses are.
Excellent. And so you said that the open application process runs from beginning of January until February 2nd.
Yes.
What does that application process look like for someone who hasn't gone through it before?
Really great question, Scott. For first-time applicants, it's mandatory for them to meet with me in a one-on-one capacity in order to determine their viability within the grant. We wanted to ensure that anybody who's applying isn't going to be somebody that isn't going to have a viable application. So a lot of what I'm doing right now are conducting one-on-ones until the application itself concludes on February 2nd. And those one-on-ones really consist of a 30-minute to an hour evaluation of your proposed project to determine if it's viable and what type of funding you're looking for. So dollar amounts, if you have that. Really the main caveat of our grant when we're doing these reviews is we're looking for projects that are shovel ready, meaning that with only an infusion of cash, this project could come to fruition and the organization itself could really develop from these funds. The acronym CDBG stands for the Community Development Block Grant, and we really focus on the development aspect when it comes to working with nonprofits, municipalities. We really want to show this expansive growth that's occurring within our community.
So here in the room with us again, Jason McCullough with Brothers Redevelopment, an example of one of those partnerships that the CDBG has here. Luke, if you could quickly talk about how that partnership began, and then Jason, if you would be able to talk about sort of what that process looked like for you and who you are as an organization.
So I'm joined today by Jason McCullough with Brothers Redevelopment. We've actually been partnered with Brothers Redevelopment since I want to say 2013, correct?
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. But Brothers Redevelopment really has been an exemplary subrecipient of our grant when it comes to deliverables. They aren't very complicated, but they are very thorough when it comes to federal grant writing. So we wanted to, and we often do, we'll use Brothers Redevelopment as an example for our other subrecipients and showing how easily accessible our grant is while also being a way to promote the organization that you're working for. So feel free. I'd love to learn a little bit more about Brothers Redevelopment.
Sure. So and we are a nonprofit, so that's part of the reason we started years ago getting involved with this type of funding partner. It also fits our mission. So I'd say first piece of advice is make sure the grants and the intent of the grant fits your mission. So our mission is to provide housing and housing services for low-income, elderly, and disabled residents across Colorado. We have offices in Denver. We also have offices in Colorado Springs. We have for many years as well. But this is an area where there's a lot of need, and like need guides us. So when we saw this, the availability of the CDBG programs, we saw a chance to partner with municipalities that are obviously a trustable resource. They're where folks go to with need, right? You go to your local municipality with I have need. And if we were able to fit in some way to help provide those services, that's meeting our mission and hopefully matching the mission of the funds and the intent for the local municipality. Boy, that's a tough one. So that's how we started. Yeah. So we started with the Denver area because that's where our main offices were. We've branched out. We now run around between, depending on the year, 13 to 14, 12 to 14, let's say, CDBG programs. There's various versions of those. Everyone has kind of their focus. We just make sure it aligns with what we want, what our focus is, which, housing stabilization, fighting urban blight, making sure people can age in place. So everything we do is home safety, accessibility. We do system repair, like deferred maintenance on major systems, and then aging home rehab. So if you have an older home, usually an older resident, they can no longer afford to or physically perform needed maintenance. Instead of having that turn into an abandoned building potentially at some point, we can redevelop, as the name implies, and perform rehab services using local contractors as well. That's part of our personal, as we want to do as much economic development as well. So we're using local contractors to keep those funds in the area they came from. So it's kind of one hand shakes the other.
Have you been with the organization since its inception?
No. So we started, quick Brothers background. We started in 1971. So Mom was in high school still, right? I've been with them. This will be my 18th year. Last November was my 18th year. It's a great organization. Obviously, if it wasn't, I hopefully wouldn't still be here. So they started in 71. It's grown into what it is now over the last 5 decades plus. We started as just a neighborhood, kind of North Denver neighborhood coalition that worked kind of street to street, finding volunteers, helping folks out as we could. And then it's grown into now we provide housing for a lot of people. We own or manage about in the upper 20s or low 30s housing with BPM. We just merged with an organization, Aurora. So now we manage all of the Aurora affordable housing as well, which is, I don't even know how many that is. We haven't had a managers meeting yet after that. That was very recent. So I'll find out that we're kind of siloed just because of the breadth of what we do. And then my program, the home modification repair program, is kind of was the original, and it's grown into what it is now, which we use municipal funds, foundational grants, private grants, donations to provide specifically subsidized services for low-income housing issues. So we only work on existing housing. No one that receives our services is ever going to receive a bill, but there is always an application because everything we do we have to show need for that and then report on the outcomes, which is the other part of the CDBG, is you have to have the admin strength. That is a muscle and probably a staff member you should have that is able to understand the rules and regs and able to report on what you do. Because if you don't report, it didn't happen.
Right. Yeah. I'm actually really curious to hear a little bit more about the organization. So for you personally, what connected you to this organization? I mean, it's been around since 1971.
Sure.
But what for you was like, this is what I want to do? You've been there quite a long time at this point.
Yeah. So in my past life, I was in the trades, did, kind of high-end renovation, remodeling. It was good. It was a job. But I felt like the first year I was at Brothers, when you see the effect you have on someone's life, when you see like you've done something they couldn't do, the emotion that comes with that sometimes, and just the fact that you're not like, it's a job, right? So this is my job. I started in the field with Brothers. I was their lead field tech, and worked just, over the years, worked into the position I'm in now. But you get a sense of responsibility. I know there's other ways for folks to receive assistance, but we're one of the only resources in a lot of areas for folks that don't have other resources available. So we're kind of the last rung on the ladder, and that's because, in no small part, access to the funds like the CDBG programs offer. So, a sense of responsibility and then accountability, and we've honestly been too busy for me to ever look anywhere else. The housing crisis in Colorado is incredibly real. I know it's very present. It's talked about in just about every area of Colorado we work in, and it's not. We're chipping away, but it's honestly not getting any better. So, so that keeps us busy enough. And when you have a sense of accomplishment, and you also have that, kind of, if not me, then who? Then that keeps you around for a while.
Yeah, no, that's really great to hear. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. So what has your experience been like going through the CDBG application process? For those who may not, who haven't gone through it before, who may not know what to expect, can you talk and share a little bit about what your process was like? Sure.
It really comes down to the best advice I ever got early on when we got into this was from a mentor of mine. Her name is Yvonne Duval. And she said, read the CFR. It's not pleasant, it's not interesting, but read the CFR. It's all there. So different municipalities are going to have different interpretations. They're going to have different focus, like I said, on what they want to do with those funds. But if you understand the baseline CFR, and then you have the administrative capability to apply for a grant, and you feel like, I want to do something with my nonprofit or my organization that will benefit the municipality in a way that matches up to what these funds are intended for, then you get into the application process. So we learned by partnering with, honestly, we did our first one many years ago with the municipality. We still partner with, and it was them coming to us and saying, "Hey, we don't have Parks and Rec staff that can do this. This is kind of your wheelhouse. You work in housing. Would you be interested?" So we cut our teeth that way. We learned sometimes the hard way. There are rules, there are deadlines, and you can't, with anybody that's been in a construction project knows, the last 10% takes 90% of the time and cost. So we've had to learn to, keep budgets, timelines, keep really sharpen the stick on that. But that's how we got into it. We were asked to. Once we realized, this is a doable process. We can handle this. We already work with, the state level stuff, and we've worked in affordable housing, and we kind of had a bit of that muscle, if you will. We just grew our admin side to a point where we were able to do intake, process applications. We already work with, we were lucky enough to have a call center set up in the early 2000s we ran the Colorado foreclosure hotline. So we have an intake, kind of infrastructure. For smaller nonprofits, it's, you probably know what's going on in the areas you're serving. That's the whole point of, being present. So we just work through it that way. And once we understand, we now, we have an application that's our application, but it mirrors CDBG and the requirements for that. So we can take any program we have and apply the same rules and regs and know that we're covering HUD rules, we're covering state rules, and it's all kind of encapsulated in what we do. So it's just, years and time. So
yeah, no, that's great. And then Luke, if you could maybe take what Jason shared and, apply that across perhaps multiple organizations throughout our region here in El Paso County, what does that look like for them, and what should they be looking for in that application process themselves?
We've actually streamlined this process a little bit easier for any sort of eligible nonprofit or organization that is thinking about applying within our grant through what's called our consolidated plan. And every 5 years, we will, as an organization, reevaluate what the goals and objectives are of our grant through a survey that we send out to the constituents of El Paso County. And in 2022, we came up with 10 specific con plan goals, which vary in terms of their applicability. One of them that Jason mentioned was accessibility to living in place is included as one of those con plan goals. And really how we structure our application process is we want you to not only align to the CFR that Jason mentioned, which stands for the Code of Federal Regulations. It's about 259 pages, so it's a little bit difficult for folks to jump into that and read it. But we want to make sure that you're aligning with what is known as a HUD matrix code, at least one of those per application. And then we want to align you with one of our con plan goals that's specific to El Paso County and what those constituents specified in 2022. A little bit more context, we will actually be ending our con plan in the coming year. So those goals that we've actually been trying to achieve will be actualized through the course of what funding we recommend to the Board of County Commissioners. So it is really it's to the best interest of any applicant, potential applicant, to really reach out to me and determine if we've achieved one of the comp plan goals that they're looking to apply within, or if they want to see what those other comp plan goals look like that may be under actualized at this point and possibly want to apply within that. So feel free to reach out to me. And right now I'm offering that type of support in order to make sure and ensure that applicants are fitting into the parameters and the framework of our grant in a way that is going to be the most effectual for their application. And for folks that are, again, looking to, maybe you're a first-time applicant within this grant, or you're not sure if you're a viable option within our consolidated plan, please reach out to me, because really, again, for the next 2 to 3 weeks, I'm going to be making these determinations in partnership with organizations that reach out. So it really is a hand-holding process initially. We must conduct a one-on-one with each first-time applicant. So it's really imperative to contact me now. And the easiest way to do that is to contact our team at cdbg@elpasoco.com. This way, it's an equitable approach. Our team is looking at every request that comes through during the application process, and that way we can all kind of approach it from a collective standpoint. And for anybody else who is currently listening that maybe has missed the February 2nd deadline, it is an annual grant. So again, we will be reopening our grant in 2027, the first week of January that year. So please keep us in mind and ensure that you're keeping in contact with us in order to know when the next grant cycle is going to open.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing all that information for the both of you. And then I just wanted to give each of you a final opportunity. If there's anything that you think may have missed or something you want to kind of reiterate to share with everyone else to let them know just how important all of this is. Luke, maybe we'll start with you on that.
I'm actually going to set Jason up for, I guess, what is a promotional, because I know their organization right now has a pretty strong waiting list for their home modification and repair program. But if you're still looking for more information about how this could have essentially help you, Brothers Redevelopment has been a resource in the 3 years that I've been at the county for every single person that has come across their desk in terms of trying to find them assistance. That's really why I think they're exemplary people, let alone an exemplary organization, because even if they can't work with you right away, they're going to find some sort of resource that may be able to benefit you in the long term. So in addition to that, I'm just going to mention again, please contact me if you have any more questions about our application process, which is CDBG at elpasoco.com.
Yeah, and I'll add, thank you, Luke. And yeah, we do. So CDBG is a tool, right? It's not to make the construction joke, but it is a tool in our belt, right? It's not the only one. It should not probably be counted on to be the only one. We got into CDBG because we wanted additional support and we wanted more structured and to be able to count on funding every year. With grant funding, you don't know, like especially right now, the last couple of years, to say it's been interesting is that's saying something, right? So grant funds are contracting. There's a lot more competition for them right now due to several factors, both local and national. CDBG funds not only they're based on population, they're based on need, they're based on mission. So if you can access them, great. But make sure you have a viable, let's say, nonprofit business plan otherwise, because banking on just these are not out there to like make you money. They're not that's why for-profits don't apply for them. They're not there. My team keeps time like attorneys. We turn in everything we do. We have to show exactly what was done. We can only bill for what was completed. So there's no like, oh, we came in under, so we made a bunch on this. That's not part of the deal for these. It's really there to disseminate funds in a way that's effective for the purposes they're selected. So that's the important part is I can't stress the report, collect and report, right? But then besides that, yes, if you're a low-income resident of El Paso County and you own your home, you still have homeowners insurance, but you cannot afford a major or minor repair in your home, please contact us. We have access to the CDBG program. There is a wait list, unfortunately, right now, with most of our programs there are. But if we know about you, then we can find some resources for you at some point. If not now, then hopefully sooner than later. But that is our mission. So we can't help you if we don't know about you. So let us know.
Great. And how can they let you know? What's the best way for them to do that?
Well, the county's a great place to start. They're excellent. That's the other thing is county's an excellent referral point for us and resource. You can always visit us on brothersredevelopment.org. There's a link to our department, the home modification and repair page there. And then also you can go to coloradohousingconnects.org. And that is our website that is statewide, and it's for any housing need you have. So if you have questions about renting, questions about first-time homeownership, questions about where do I live, where are some affordable housing options, in my area, what are resources that could help me with my housing issue? That's a great statewide resource that we have partnered with a lot of organizations on, and they'll list any you'll be able to talk to a navigator eventually, and then they can direct you to us as well. But I'd say for the El Paso region, contact the county, contact Luke. They'll get you to us.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Luke and Jason. I appreciate you guys taking the time today for the conversation and for all that you do for the people here in El Paso County. So thank you for making the time.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Scott.
Absolutely. If you are interested in listening to additional episodes of Beyond the Dais, be sure to look for us on Podbean or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.